Hi there. This is Lewis from Eazeye, and I've got in front of me, I've got the Eazeye monitor, and we're going to talk about today. I'm going to ask him some tough questions about his crowdfunding project, his Indiegogo project at Eazeye. And congratulations, Lewis, 100% funding. That's incredible. Actually, it's more like 300%, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah,
it's
thank you, Kit, yeah. He's
in less than
actually Kit
in,
Kit has actually told me he's a physics teacher earlier, so,
That's
thank you,
right,
Kit.
yeah. So we've been having a little chat before, and we've tried to keep it off the topic of Eazeye beforehand, so we can just talk about Eazeye. During the live stream, and absolutely, but that's incredible. I think in less than 24 hours you managed to fund your project, so that's really
Mhm.
cool, man. Well done.
Yeah,
And if you
so
don't know,
it's
sorry, if
go
you
ahead.
don't know, then Lewis is a student himself, and he just talked to me a little about his school and where we're up to with this really interesting project. um, I've seen the other interviews, they were really cool. They focused on stuff like that, how a young person's doing that is cool. But I'm going to give you a bit of a grilling in this one, because if people are going to put their money into this, it's a good product. If it does what it says that it does, if it does what it claims to do, it's a very good price product. But people need to know if it's going to have that impact on their life. So I'm going to jump straight in with my very first tough question, though. Is it Eazeye or is it Eazeye? How do we say this?
Yeah, so it's Eazeye, EAZ and EYE, so it's Eazeye, yeah.
Eazeye, yeah. And here
It's
it is.
a
I've got it in front of me, and you guys in the audience, please do just ask any questions, because as you can see in this live stream, we're going to actually have the opportunity to see the screen and see how it performs. I can go into the menus and things, and we can talk about, the different modes that it comes with, and we can talk about how well it's working. And I'll be able to share this and show some different, go back to where I was, show some different uses of it and talk about it today. So it's really exciting. What I'm using it right now is I'm using it with the back panel just slightly tilted back, just to give a little bit of that ambient light. But you can clip that back panel fully together, and at this point it looks pretty much just like an ordinary monitor. Okay, it just looks pretty much just like an ordinary monitor. So that's a really clever thing. Earlier on today, I was using it against the window. There it is, earlier on today. And it was really very interesting to have it with that light through. I've been using it for a little while now. I haven't just used it. Hi, Jordan. Good to see you. I haven't just used it just for the last couple of days. I've used it for a couple of weeks now. And there's many different scenarios this can work, and it's something I think my sort of first conclusions are a little bit like the RLCD. And incidentally, with right next to it, we have got the RLCD, so we can make those comparisons. There's some e-ink things as well, if we do want to make those comparisons, because that's where our discussions were just going before we jumped on this live stream, wasn't it, Lewis? We're talking about comparing these things, and there's different sort of modes you can use it. And my conclusion has been already that you're going to have to put in some time to customize and think about how this is going to fit into your life, where it's going to be in your room, where it's going to be in your life. It's also, one other conclusion is that it is very good for using on text. So I've been working on some text documents with it today, but also RLCD is good for text, and also e-ink is good for text as well. So there's some of my questions that have come from that kind of standpoint. With on the screen, in front of the window, as I had it earlier on, it was a pleasure to use when I had the panel right off. I had the light on still. The light was actually on at 100% brightness. I think it needed that just to compare to the window almost, and the contrast up high at about 80%. I was also quite reassured by the details that you gave about the spectrum of the lights that you were using. The LEDs that are in the base of the panel along here are the same type of LEDs that are used in seasonal affective disorder lamps. So lamps that people use to give themselves that kind of sunlight spectrum during winter time to mitigate the effects of that, what they call SAD disorder, which can lead to some depression in the winter months. Tell me a bit about those sunlight spectrum LEDs, if you can, Lewis.
Yeah, sure, I'm happy to share my screen,
Cool.
and then show you the files that I've got. So here's a Google Doc with all our spectrometer test results. You
Nice.
can, so here, I think, let me zoom in a little bit. You can see this is a traditional computer monitor. You have your blue, you have your RGB lights, red, green, blue. You can see there's a big spike in blue light, and this really strong intensity blue light is obviously it's not good for your eyes. And you can see here when we turn on the low blue light settings. Now, a lot of computer monitors say they're low blue light, and this is what they mean. When you turn on the low blue light setting, you can see the blue light is reduced quite a little bit from here to here. But at the end, you still have a big spike here. And this is just a very unnatural spectrum. And so here's natural sunlight, and you could see it's basically quite an even spectrum all throughout. You see UV and you have infrared past here. It's quite an even spectrum. Now, when we take a look at Eazeye here, you can see Eazeye is of course it's not exactly the same as sunlight. It's
What we call a Maxwell-Boltzmann distribution. Sunlight is it's not a normal distribution, but it's a Boltzmann distribution.
But you can see these LEDs we've actually tested a lot, and we've tested which LEDs produce the lowest blue light. We've also tested which ones make the lowest intensity, and also which ones are most similar to sunlight. And so you can see here, this is compared to this spike here. This is relatively muted and is more spread out. So it's much lower in intensity compared to this spike, which is incredibly unnatural.
Yeah, fascinating. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. That's exactly what I wanted to see, and I'm gonna make sure for the full review that I can get my hands on a spectrometer. I'm hoping my school, I've just moved school, and my old school had one, so I'm hoping I can dig one out at my school and sort of replicate those. And you can see actually, if you're looking at the top there, you can see this is the Eazeye here, and next to it is this much bluer monitor. This is an ordinary LCD monitor over here, and you can compare them. And I know, it's a difficult one. You might think, oh, well, that looks really dark. Okay. But actually it is perfectly legible. And again, that low contrast is comfortable for reading text. And that is because now I've actually got the panel clipped right back. And actually when I do this, when I push that back a little bit, again, now it sort of matches the sort of light in the room as well. So this is a nice, there's a nice variability. And what you can do is when you need for video or you need for color, you can clip it back like this, and then when you just need that lower contrast for text, you can just push it off and you've got a more comfortable reading situation. So there's a nice thing there, right? I also want to say, just before we jump into the next questions, I want to say that you just talked about this as well. The actual back panel itself, the way it slips on and off, leaves a little bit to be desired, I think, at some times. And those hinges, have you done any testing of those hinges, their durability through longer term?
Yeah, so really since this is a prototype, and for the prototype, we had the goal of like demonstrating that this works with natural light, that these components would be quite similar in later on. I mean, these materials. But as for specific components, like you're mentioning the hinge, currently we use hinges that are on market. When we are moving to mass production, which is hopefully in a month, once our campaign ends, we are going to be customizing these hinges so that they are going to be durable. They're going to be more hidden than they are now, and we'd be posting live updates on our Indiegogo page or on our different communities so people can see our progress.
Fantastic. And I would also say that the anti-glare finish is really, really good as well. It's really noticeable. I think this is one of the least amounts of glare that I've had on any screen at all. So you very rarely see, even when there's a bright object behind you, you can probably see how diffuse it is in the corner here, which is something I can't even see here because it's just not here. That angle is not coming into my eyes here, but in the camera you can see just how diffuse it is. There's a large square lamp up there. You can see on here the RLCD, for instance, you are getting some quite spectral reflections, which means that you can see the shape of them, so they're quite distracting there. Yeah, let's fire into the sort of questions that I've planned for you, my buddy. Thank you very much. So one thing I would say is the size of it and the resolution. So it's a 1080p monitor and it's a 24-inch screen, I think I'm looking at right now. Is that?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It is, as you can probably see here, it is the smaller of the three monitors that I've got on the desk just now. And perhaps, that's obviously in comparison, having a smaller monitor is not as comfortable to use for lots of different tasks. Is that something that you're going to expand on this design in the future, or do you think this is the kind of limitation of where the technology's at?
Yeah, so this is it's not really a limitation, and the reason why Eazeye chose 24 inches in the beginning is that 24 inches is like the standard size. So like for most computer monitors, they are 24 inches. And right now there's the Sun Vision display with 32 inches. So
Mm,
we wanted to offer something different that was also a size that was more comfortable for a lot of people, and that 24 inches was the size that we chose. Of course, it's not really about the technology, but it's really about like the demand. If we should continue computer monitors that are of different sizes, if I do a 20, if Eazeye does a 27-inch or 32-inch computer monitor, for example, what would the demand be like compared to the 24-inch?
mm.
And also like that would require like custom again like a full another production line, which would add a bit to the complexity, of course.
Yeah, for the startup, this is just what you've chosen, and that's the size, but no reason why you couldn't have other sizes in the future. A couple of questions already from the chat. Let's hit them if you want, because this is a really good opportunity for you guys if you're interested in backing this, and also, Lewis, for you to hear some opinions as well. So this one, what's the benefit of the Eazeye monitor compared to RLCD? To me, RLCD seems better and more practical all around. So, as I say, tough questions, my guy.
No, this is yeah, I'm happy to answer them. So RLCD and this Eazeye is let me explain what the difference is. So Eazeye uses a backlight, so it's naturally backlit, but it requires light from the back. And so we've incorporated a reflector panel that allows overhead light from above to light up the display or light from behind. So if you're talking about just the specific benefits of like comparing RLCD to Eazeye, first of all, Eazeye is comparatively more affordable, and is also lower in glare. You can see earlier, if you guys were watching, um, and is also you can see yeah, the glare, and it's also that Eazeye is it's a different way of using it. So it's not really a disadvantage. For example, if you have lighting from the back, Eazeye would perform better. If you have lighting from the front, then you would RLCD would perform better. So it's up to personal preference at the end. There isn't really a major benefit. Really, the goal of Eazeye is to put another solution out there in the market, so people have access to more eye strain friendly technology.
Yeah, very good. It is certainly if you take advantage of the early bird special is about a quarter of the price. So that's where we're looking for that one. And another good question from the audience. What's more eye friendly? I guess that's really for me. So I'm going to spend a lot of time on that. What about glare being an issue on SVD? What I would say on SVD, it is more like a glossy finish, but it also is a really impressive finish as well. It really is very, very well controlled. It's not as matte. You can probably see that it isn't as matte as the front of the Eazeye screen is. So the RLCD is giving you, more of those spectral reflections, but neither are bad. I'm going to sort of leave it until I produce the full review to say, and I will do a side-by-side comparison, and I'll say which I find more eye-friendly in the long run. I would say that possibly if you're leaning towards photo and video type uses, you can do those, or even gaming, you can do those, and you can get away in more lighting situations for this, because when you do clip it together, it just sort of feels like a normal LCD screen with those eye-friendly, the spectral LCDs that we discussed at the start. But the RLCD is really something which is, that what I've been doing on here, and I've been living with this RLCD for some time now, is essentially I've been working on my other LCD monitors, and normally I have 2 of them on here, but obviously I'm testing out this transmissive LCD, the Eazeye. And what I do is when I'm typing an email, I bring that email window over here onto the RLCD because it's just so friendly for text. But I was hoping this would be somewhere I could edit video on as well, because long editing sessions for a YouTuber, that's the challenge, that's the struggle. In terms of your eye strain anyway. And I'm finding it just gives me that little break when I need to do those text-based things. I can put that over on that machine, and I even turn off the LCD panels on the side here as well. Cool. Any more questions? That's what we're here for today.
Yeah, I'd like to add something about that, comment, because I've actually tried Sun Vision Displays RLCD monitor, and it's quite comfortable, I'd say. But also another thing I'd like to mention is that if you have let's say a pure 6K LED shining at the Sun Vision display monitor, and this is what I've noticed, and you could do a bit of testing to verify this yourself. If you point a pure white LED onto the Sun Vision display, you'd have a screen that is slightly more tinted yellow compared to the Eazeye. So that's something. So
you're right, yeah. So when you say 6000K, you're talking about these warmer tones.
Yeah, if you point a pure white LED, which is like 6000K, or basically any LED onto the Sun Vision display, you'd see it's compared to, if you move that LED to the back of Eazeye, you'd see the Eazeye is still comparatively whiter than the RLCD screen.
So maybe that's the choice right now. If you're looking more into text and things, you might well be interested in RLCD. If you're looking more into truer colors, you can achieve that probably more easy. And you've got those optional modes as well. And what I've already said, the feedback I've already given to Lewis, is what I would really love to see is just a better menu screen in here. When you pull up the screen, it's quite a generic, if I can find my way around with these buttons, it's quite a generic kind of monitor setup screen that you get up there. And I'd love to see one that was aimed, like give me 4 different eye comfort modes that I can easily select between. That would be ideal. I'm hoping it might be a bridge too far for this rollout this time. But
yeah, no, that's not the case. We didn't in fact spend any time customizing the for these reviewer units. We didn't spend any time customizing the circuit boards in there. So yeah, when we do mass production later on, that's definitely something that we can do to make the user interface more friendly.
Yeah, perhaps a menu joystick to replace those buttons. Yeah, and that's just to remind you all, we're looking at an engineering sample. Is that how you'd call this one, or is this just the 5th prototype? I think you told me.
We've done a lot of prototypes. I'm hesitant to call the final, because you can always make a better prototype in a couple of weeks. Time to make a new prototype and to improve. So we want to make it so that all these problems are fixed before we head into mass production. And that's what we're doing right now. We've already been fully funded on Indiegogo. And we're currently hard at work at making another unit that fixes, we've listed more than 10 or so. And these issues, some are a little bit more minor. Some are larger issues that we have to fix before we proceed to mass production. So that's the goal.
Cool. Fabulous. Yeah. And I'm just something I noticed on your Indiegogo as well was there's a stretch goal down there. What would it mean to you? What would it mean to your company to get to that stretch goal?
So stretch goal is this is pretty typical for a lot of Kickstarter Indiegogo companies to have a really high goal, so they can give an additional reward to their backers. And if we can hit that goal, I mean, it seems a bit far off. But again, this isn't for Eazeye, this wouldn't be the last product. This would just be the start. So yeah, there's a stretch goal. There's a secret reward that I'm not going to disclose now, but that's for if we hit the stretch goal. Yeah.
Well, that'd be 2,000% of your original goal.
Yeah, it would
Fabulous.
be very high. Yes.
Yeah, and I'm seeing, you've got big discounts on the big packs, and one
Mhm.
place I certainly when I was talking about this RLCD and this monitor is, people who work in offices that are brightly lit, glass offices, things like that as well. These can be really actually quite compelling alternatives to ordinary screens because of the way they control the glare and the way they use that natural and ambient light. So worth looking if you're speccing out a whole office or anything like that. Very worth looking into this kind of package. I'm going to get to a couple more questions and some really nice ones as well, but I'm going to ask one of my own questions because I feel like I haven't asked enough of those, and that's what I've wanted to do. So it's good for reading and writing. Okay, it is. That is something I can confirm. It's good for writing on. It's good for text, but so is e-ink. So why Eazeye over e-ink?
Yeah. So e-ink is just, again, it's another alternative. There are drawbacks with e-ink right now. Currently, with the new Kaleido screens, um, they still have a lot of ghosting. They have slower refresh rate. And yeah, so and also e-ink is much higher in cost. So if you're going to get a device for eye strain, and again, at the end, it's personal preference. Everybody has a different view on what causes their eye strain, and everybody sees there's different solutions for everyone.
That's
So
just the two comments are just flashing up there. Absolutely, just back that up. I was looking for an e-ink monitor, and then I saw my wallet wasn't ready for it, unfortunately. Absolutely. So when you're, this size of e-ink monitor is you're looking at over £1,000. This size of
yeah,
RLCD.
and how I started this was I saw that there was, well, when I started this about a year, 2 years ago, that these e-ink and these RLCD devices were priced so high, and as a student, I couldn't afford. I wouldn't want to
Mm,
spend 2K on something that I didn't know would work or not, and that couldn't. It doesn't replace a regular monitor too. So if you need to do, for example, like you said, Kit, earlier, that you needed to do editing, that you would
mhm,
have to use another device to do your editing on, and have a separate device, and have a separate RLCD screen for reading text, for example.
yeah.
So I wanted a device that has to work as a regular monitor first. And then second of all, has to be a lot more comfortable, whether you're using it with natural light or even the backlight, the built-in
Mhm.
backlight, built-in LED backlight.
Yeah, absolutely fascinating. I'm going to ask I'm going to have a couple more. There's one more question here from the audience first of all, then I'll ask one of mine as well. I'm just going to boot up some e-ink as well, so we've got that in the mix as well. And one thing I would say is, what I'm sort of quite enjoying at the moment in my sort of tech combo is having LCDs, traditional LCDs, ready to go when I need to do that video editing stuff, and then moving to a separate screen, whether that's RLCD, whether that's I don't know what we're going to call this naturally backlit is how you term it, isn't
Mm.
it? LCD monitor or the e-ink. So I would recommend, if you're someone who is finding long sessions on their computer quite a challenge, having one other alternative to go to where you can still be productive is quite a nice way to think about it. And whether that's e-ink, whether that's RLCD, that's the thing to do. Many thanks for your questions as well, Victor. Enjoying this. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Good. Interesting one. It seems to be the best for offices that benefit from sunlight through the windows. Yeah, absolutely. I can see people in corner offices, in towers benefiting from these. Probably I've never worked in a corner office in a tower actually, but I can imagine it's quite difficult to get a monitor without any glare on it because it's difficult on the outside. We have a room now with a lot of glass, and that's one thing I've been discussing and using that.
Yeah, I think that if it's by a window, of course, that's the best, because natural light always beats out in
Mm,
strength um, LED or any other sorts of electricity powered lighting. But if you have direct overhead lighting that is more concentrated rather than diffused, it would work. It would work on Eazeye as well. So you wouldn't need the to supplement that light with the built-in LED strip.
mm.
And that's my experience.
Yeah, I'll just show you now. So there's quite a bit of light in this room right now because I've got the video lights on. I'm going to push back the reflector at the back. Is that what we're calling that? Reflector panel?
Yeah, the reflector panel.
And you can see it's quite a bit darker than it was now. And then I'm going to turn off the lights, the LED lights, and you can see now it's pretty much unusable with just the backlights. I haven't got them shining directly in. I have tried putting this this arm in behind it as well, this arm with lights. I've tried putting these two in it as well, but I think actually what Lewis has done is he's made made that solution for you in a way, because there is this strip at the back here is what he's saying is the the best that he can engineer as a light for that backlight. Yes, you can come up with a direct overhead solution, and you can add in some other lights as well to whatever you're comfortable with in the room. But these are what your research has found to be the sort of the kindest, the eye friendliest LED backlight solution, which means that you can use it as a standalone thing in all situations. There is no, yes, there's a built-in front light on e-ink panels, but there is no built-in front light on the RLCD, for instance. So it's something that can be a bit more plug and play, and it could be a bit of a one and done. I'm going to jump to one of their questions as well now, if that's okay. So does it bother you to have an overhead light directly behind the monitor? And I think that's perhaps referencing one of your images where you've got a bulb like right behind it. And I think that's it. You have to bear that in mind, that you're going to have to put some time and effort into thinking about how it's going to work in your room, and that overall lighting situation, that's the one there. That overall lighting situation is going to work for you. And that's the thing. It's about customization. I'm trying to answer your question for you, Lewis. You go ahead, and if there's light directly to eyes, yeah.
So you can see so what we did for our graphic was to really illustrate the fact that it was naturally backlit. And so there's a lot of confusion over like, how is this different from our LCD? What's the different? Why is there a panel in the back? Is this just a regular monitor with no backlight? So we wanted to illustrate really like the essence of Eazeye with a clear graphic. So if you do have overhead lighting that's a bit further off, that is right, but it has to be pretty direct and above, then it would work well without the need of the LED. But of course, you can, if it's not perfectly direct, you could always turn on that LED or have set up your own lighting solution, which is great because you could choose your own lights that are as comfortable as possible for you. And also you can choose, you don't have to be restricted by just LED lights that are in every single device, every single electronic device right now. You could have like a halogen light. There's a lot of different other lighting options.
Yeah, that's right. And you can also, I'm certainly finding with the LEDs, what you can do is you can just add a little bit in. You can add a little bit of with the built-in LEDs. You can use your natural light, and then you can add a little bit of the built-in LEDs as well. One more from the audience as well. I assume the majority of the time, cloudy days, evenings, for instance, you need to have some kind of artificial light behind the monitor. Doesn't it defeat the purpose? Does it defeat the purpose to have an extra light? And I suppose I'm going to link that into one of my questions, which was about the power output as well. You say, I think 4 watts, I think is what you said. But of course, that's without a backlight of another light as well. So is it really that you can say it's 4 watt, but if most of the time you're going to use another backlight or the built-in backlight, it's going to get pretty similar to the same power consumption as another monitor?
Yeah, let me answer the questions one by one. It's a big question. So for the let me answer the comment right on the screen here. So if you have a cloudy day, or like in cloudy in evenings, and you set up a Eazeye directly behind a window, so that you maximize as much light that passes through Eazeye as possible, you do not actually need the LEDs. That's from my experience. And Kit, you can feel free to chime in and then talk about your
experience. I've been on a little touch, but it wasn't like if it's direct sunlight. Are you in you're not in California, are you? You said Iowa, is that right? But yeah, anyway,
in Connecticut here.
Connecticut.
Yeah, but it should generally be sufficient because natural light is so much more brighter that even in a cloudy day, you'd still have a lot more light than your LEDs in your room. So it should be sufficient. And then if you have artificial light behind the monitor, it's the great thing is, first of all, you could customize to have any lighting solution you want. And second of all, the light isn't just for the monitor. Like if you have an overhead light, for example, that beams down on below, then you'd light up the whole area. So it's not just the monitor is being lit by that light; it's the whole area. So the viewing experience should be much more comfortable. And also with the LEDs, and we've talked about this earlier, the full spectrum LEDs, that is not incorporated in monitors currently. So I feel like a lot of backers right now would
So no
see,
other monitor has those LEDs. No other monitors doing that.
not that I'm aware of. No.
Not that you're aware of, yeah.
It's because we had to actually customize these LEDs ourselves.
Yeah.
Not really an in-market LED strip with full spectrum lighting, just because it's a much more complicated approach, and it's also much more costly. But at the end, we want to have something that helps eye strain, and would do our full lengths to get there, and not just say this is naturally backlit and it is. That's all the eye strain. That's all the steps we've taken for eye strain.
Fascinating.
And then, yeah, I'll go ahead and explain the electricity consumption. If you are using it, so where the electricity consumption, like really the 4 watts comes in handy is if you're using it outside. And there's like, if, for example, if you do need to use a monitor outside, for example, if you're taking data, or any other purpose that you're using it outside, you would plug it into a power pack. And then, of course, we didn't do USB-C, but even with that, you could have buy a power bank that's with a plug that you could plug Eazeye into, and if your regular monitor runs for an hour or two with that battery pack, then Eazeye would run 10 times as long. So it would run for a day around. And so that's like the purpose of the lower electricity consumption mainly.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks for clarifying that one. There's one thing that I'll ask again. That there's been a comment around the quality of the seals. I can't get my camera behind it right now, but this kind of bottom unit is kind of around the ports. It's not always so perfectly aligned. It's not sealed up. Is that something that's going to change in the final shipped units?
So the reason why we've done a bigger hole for the HDMI in this design is that we were deciding specifically on which circuit boards we were using, and so we just let a bit more room. And since this is like a reviewer unit, it wasn't made for long-term usage. And for it to be so final that would be used for long periods of time, we've decided to play it safe here. But when we do our mass production, would have another unit that would base off of, that would have all the problems fixed, not just about the quality issues with, if you're mentioning about the hole for the HDMI, but also all the other little details from the color of the side of the panel to the hinge to the internal components. Everything like that would be finalized before we head into mass production.
Yeah, cool. Couple more questions. I want to say one more question for me. So one of the benefits listed, I think, in the market, yeah, here it is. No flicker. Flicker-free DC dimming reduces eye strain, and people talk a lot about flicker with monitors. Done a little bit of research myself and find that none of my ordinary LCD monitors in my life actually have any flicker right now, and that is because they're kind of most modern screens are doing the same thing, and they're making sure the power line is not affecting the brightness of the screen. I'm just wondering about that sort of statement. Is it necessary to make that statement, no flicker? Because essentially monitors from good reputable brands that you're spending more than $100 or so on are going to be flicker free, pretty much guaranteed, because it's a recognized thing. If you are using a flickering monitor, it's time to upgrade, certainly from that. I think the only one that I've found in my life are the panels. For some reason, the panels we use at the front of classrooms in our school, which are still quite new, and they're not cheap. So I want to have a word with them. But is it really a benefit of Eazeye, or is that just a marketing statement that you just think needs to go on the website? Tell us about that one.
Yeah, so we just wanted to share, because this is again an iStream monitor, that we have taken all the precautions necessary. We're not cutting corners here, and we've taken eye strain, which is like when you have regular computer monitors that mention they're no flicker, low blue light, but we've also done that, and we've also expanded on how we could um, go the extra mile and figure out which reasons cause eye strain and fix
Mm.
those. So apart from no flicker, low glare, you could see above, there's also CRI, there's also
Yeah.
a lot of different factors that affect eye strain. And that's just on our Indiegogo page. If on the bottom, if you scroll down all the way to the bottom, there's a press kit that details specifically and with different case study examples, like how Eazeye fixes eye strain, there in the bottom.
Yeah, and that's worth it. As you guys, you're here on this live stream listening about this new tech, you're going to be interested in that just as much as the press are. Don't just have your information digested for you by people like me who purport to know what they're doing, but also they're busy professionals doing lots of things as well. But go in there, get in there, and actually find out what Lewis is wanting to communicate to the press, and do your own research. There's really interesting research. It does detail where this research has come from as well. And it's really fascinating the way you are sharing what you're doing and seeing it all here coming from the factories. I know you sent me a photo of them going into their boxes, and I was just like, oh, cool, it's actually coming, and then I can just tell your enthusiasm with every email you send to me, which is...
Yeah, I'd like to be as transparent as possible on this. So, yeah, I feel like with currently in the market, like you have a lot of these Chinese companies, mainly that they're doing e-ink or RLCD, that aren't going to be putting themselves putting themselves out as much as I would. And of course, people might think that me doing this as a high school student is less trustworthy. But all I'm trying to do is see how the market thinks of this product, and also how we can make this a better product together, as eye strain is such a subjective thing.
Yeah, good on you. Okay, a couple more comments from the crowd, if you like. I think e-ink monitors are about £1,000 now, but after the Kickstarter fundraising is finished, I think they'll all be priced at like £2,000. Yeah, you're right. So yeah, there's nothing for you to answer. Well, I suppose there's a question. That's the Kickstarter price. What are you expecting once it is a full product available for immediate shipping? What sort of
Yeah, I can't comment on that now, but I can say that we're going to try to make it as affordable as possible. And after our campaign ends, of course, there's going to be lower demand. There's going to be, and I'm not sure exactly of the interest. So we'd have to see that to determine the cost of mass production, and the cost of shipping, and various other costs of customization, for example.
Fascinating. Somebody asked, what's the purpose for tilting the reflector panel on the back? I don't know. This is a funny one, and it's an interesting one to ask, because I kind of don't know, but it is better for reading on the moment you do tilt it back. So if I've got it tilted back at the minute, I'm going to pull the screen up, and you can kind of see it just becomes, pretty much. I was so impressed with this when I first unboxed it. If you've seen my unboxing and first thoughts video, you guys in the audience, then you'll know that I was a bit like, okay, I wasn't expecting it to be this easy to use as an ordinary monitor. And then there's just something about just flicking that back, and you can see probably what you see, hopefully you can see this, is there's not just a difference in brightness, but there's a slight color shift as well. And the color shift is like, it matches the slight blue of the paint I've got on this room. And it's kind of because the ambient light in this room is now using more of that ambient light of this room, as well as the LEDs from the back. So that's the way I feel about that. Anyway, but you've probably got more to tell us about that one, Lewis.
Yeah, so the reflector panel is actually the reason why we had it tilt instead of just at a fixed angles first. Like, you can close it and you can open it. When it's closed, it behaves like a regular computer monitor. Eazeye behaves as a regular computer monitor. When it's open, when it's tilted to like a 45-degree angle, if you're using natural light, or not, sorry, not natural light, LED light from above, that would be the perfect angle. Or if it's slightly to the side or to the back, then that's the reason why we have a solution where you could open it more, open it less, so that it reflects the brightest image on the screen. And then also, if you're using it with window light, so lighting from a window, you just take out the panel.
Yeah, or
And
you can put it pretty
you
much
could open
flat.
it all the way, which takes a bit more space, or just take it out, like pull it straight up, and store it somewhere else.
Cool. It's just about giving you that variation, really, isn't it? Good. Okay. Yeah, nice. I need to offer a backlight for those very cloudy days. I suppose that there is a backlight built in already. I suppose, Victor, you're perhaps meaning maybe, some unit that like is designed for it to go with it, that also does the job of coming directly from behind. I don't know, Victor. You might want to expand on that. But you got any thoughts on this about this comment?
Yeah, so there, I mean, already a built-in backlight in the bottom that allows it to be used in like in the scenarios that you mentioned, and with, again, taking steps to make that as comfortable as possible.
So one thing I wonder, what a question from me that I'd planned was whether most people are simply going to find that they're just going to use it clipped up, and it actually is going to live in this. At which point, yeah, it is pretty much like, well, okay, it's pretty much an inferior experience really for a lot of uses of the screen. What would you say to somebody who's worried about this? Do you think they're going to? I mean, it's definitely usable. It kind of feels like a monitor, that's not. It can't get as bright as some of the other ones. It can't. Its color accuracy isn't quite as good as some other monitors. But what would you say to someone who's worried they're going to get this device and then they're going to end up using it just like an ordinary LCD monitor the whole time?
Yeah, so regarding, let's say, the brightness or the colors, that's something we're going to fix. And I've heard a lot of feedback from journalists and reviewers saying this isn't good enough brightness. And that's something that was missed by the Eazeye team, because we thought the panel could open, but that's not in all the cases if you have lighting from the front. So that's just something that can be coded into the circuit board to increase the brightness. We could increase it easily by twofold, threefold, and it would be compared to a regular monitor. And then as for the color accuracy, that could also be, right now you have the settings, obviously. I'm not sure if you've taken a look at it with the buttons in the back. I know it's a little bit confusing, but it's a confusing menu at the moment to navigate, which we're going to fix later.
Yeah.
But adjust the different colors of light, RGB. If you just increase the blue light and decrease the red and green, it should be a little bit more color accurate. But we're gonna there's a button there that turns the display off, and right now it's a little messy in the control interface, which we'll definitely fix.
Yeah,
but you
that's
can red, green, blue, and then you could make it more white, so it's comparable to a regular monitor. And it would essentially be the same as a regular monitor, and also would have a similar would have better eye reduction in eye strain because we're using these special LEDs still.
Yeah. So that's cool. That's good to hear. Yeah, I can't find my way around this menu. It's just a minute. I have played about these menus quite a lot,
Yeah.
and I haven't done much with the actual color shift. So that's what I'll do when I'm not on camera and fiddling about and feeling a bit embarrassed. But yeah, it is like you resolve this quite simply just with a set of 4 like marks of what those buttons are behind. But this is not dissimilar. And like, by the way, these are Asus monitors that I'm using, and they have similar thing that there's 5 buttons behind there. It's marked which one's off, which is useful. You can't really see it at all, can you? But yeah, it's marked which one's off. And then there's just 4 buttons, and who knows what those 4 buttons are, but I know the top one's a menu. So it's like, okay, I'm not really sure as well. And that's not easy to do, but just a little marking on the front would be something. But I do like the gentleman having a little joystick is also a way that could be solved quite easily as well. I'm not sure about this one. Temporal dithering. Is that something you know about, Lewis?
Yeah, I think that's something that is related to the GPU side. I think it's something related to like the amount of bits, like 10-bit or 8-bit. So if
Right.
you're, I think that's not something to do with the monitor.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for clarifying that. So it's just about the bit depth of the color space that's um, being rendered. Fascinating. A couple more from me then. I've talked about the hinge. I do think currently maybe with 1,000 changes, it could become a bit flimsier. It does feel very solid.
Mm.
Also, the magnets to actually clip it on. I've been pleased with it that it has actually managed quite well, but sometimes I have to give it quite a moment and maybe even play with the
Yeah,
hinges.
so
Maybe.
that's again, like with this prototype, is we just wanted to get it out for reviews, because at the end it wasn't out there yet. Like nobody knew how good it was for eye strain if we didn't get it out there, and it would be futile to get to the end and have people try it out and say this is a pointless product. So we wanted to get it out first, of course. As for the magnets, the top strip is basically half of the strip on top is covered with magnets. We're planning to do the full strip, and so
Yeah,
that's an easy fix.
good. And there's no reason why not, because you're not interfering with anything. You've got
No,
no pen pressure or anything like that as well. Cool. This is really fascinating. I have one more. Any more from the audience? Any more questions? And then, Lewis, if there's anything you think you haven't covered, you want to share, you've thought about as a kind of key point that you want to get across to your audience, I certainly will say that, like, you know, it's interesting. I want to bring you as much as the honest kind of conversations we've had beforehand as well, and that you jumped at the chance to do this because you really wanted to be developing this in a transparent way, and that's really commendable. And that's definitely the thing to do when you're asking for people's money in advance, as you are on Indiegogo. It's good to see that it's funded, because if you are now thinking to yourself, yeah, okay, I can do this, but I want to see I want to see those first set of monitors shipped and exactly what those engineering, the final products are like before you commit, then that's really exciting to see that it is going to become a reality. It just needs your time and your final touches, and you're committed to putting it through so many so many prototype stages, and that you're committed to sharing. And with no I'm certainly going to talk about how brands work with YouTubers and things like this. I'm certainly going to talk about that in a future video as well. But I can just tell you the only um, the only I don't think we've had any kind of agreement apart from, like, yes, I will receive one, and yes, I'd like to review it. That's all we've said, and that's also the way to do when somebody believes in their product and they just send it to you and they say, have a look and let us know what you think, and I'm interested in your feedback, and of course any videos you could do to feature it. I'm interested in your feedback, both positive and negative, to help develop the thing. That's the type of company that we want. My last question that I had planned, though, for you is there likely to be any software to go on the computer that's going to enable us to get the best viewing experience? Does it need that? Are there just some display preferences that you think maybe we need to go into? Is there anything else we need to know just to get it the best it looks on the screen, or is there some type of some type of software that's planned to go onto Windows to help give you the best experience?
Yeah, so I think this is an overlap about maybe the user interface with the buttons in the back. I think there can definitely be work on that to make it more user friendly, first of all, and maybe some presets that allow it to, for example, if you have just with overhead lighting, like there would be a certain brightness that the LED is set to. So instead of navigating a more complicated menu, we just have those presets ready.
Hmm.
And that's something that I'm gonna implement for our for our mass production.
Cool. Yeah, I think that would be really, really useful. And first name, last names, just come in with one. Are your products going to be on Amazon? Or plans to go on Amazon?
Yeah, certainly. Later on, of course, once we finish this Indiegogo process, I can't promise on the price though. So if this is the best price we can get it at the moment, But that's certainly something that is open that we can do later on.
Cool. Any last points from you? Any last questions from the audience? Anything else, Lewis, you wanted to share?
I think we've had a good conversation.
Yeah.
There's not really much else, unless the audience has any questions.
Cool. Well, just to remind you all that there is a link in the description, not affiliate, not sponsored, just straight to the Indiegogo. If you haven't spotted it, I can see some of you are already backers and excited to build them. Plan to build an incandescent light box for the back of mine when I get it. So that's cool. You're going to see these appear in some DIY projects, and that's a really fun thing to be seeing. And I just want to thank you for joining me on my channel. It's really interesting to speak to you.
Let me add some last words. If
Yeah.
any of you have any more questions, feel free to ask them on our Indiegogo page. There's a chat with us button laid out throughout the page, so feel free to ask any more questions after this interview.
Yeah, awesome. Good job, my friend. Thank you all for watching, and we'll look out for, it'll be a couple of weeks probably, but I will have my full review, taking into account some of these things as well, coming for you soon. And yeah, thank you all for your questions, and thank you all for being here. Thanks again, Lewis.
Yeah, thank you.